Hello, dear ones. Hello, family. You're at home. You're at home with Jim and Joy, and Father John Paul is here with us today. My beloved wife, Joy, is taking care of one of our children, Anna, who has recently had surgery. Anna, God bless you, God heal you, care for you, our grandchildren, your husband. You can join us at any point in the show, 205-271-2980, 800-221-9460, Jim and Joy at EWTN.com. Father John Paul, welcome home, fresh from the Vatican, commissioned as a missionary of mercy by our very own, the Holy Father, Pope Francis.
Yes, I'm still getting over jet lag, but I just got back from Rome on Saturday. I was commissioned on Ash Wednesday by the Holy Father, and he gave a special audience to us on Tuesday, speaking to us about our mission and about how to, just about how to preach about mercy and how to deal with people and tell people how close God is to them. That was one of the big things that he wanted to get through to us, is just to tell people how close God is. And I just wanted to share with our EWTN family, the Holy Father gave each of the missionaries a personal stole.
Yes.
And it says, Misericordia sicut pater, which means merciful like the Father.
Merciful like the Father.
Merciful like the Father. That's really the theme of the year of mercy, Jubilee Year Mercy. And just real quick, I just wanted to show our viewing audience again, the souls were provided by none other than EWTN.
Yes, wonderful.
So EWTN, in collaboration with the Pontifical Council for Promotion of the New Evangelization, actually paid for the stoles for all of the missionaries, all 1,071 of us.
Well, they are absolutely beautiful. We want to hear more in the near future about this great commissioning that you have. But we want to remind you about the Human Ecology Conference coming up March 16th through the 18th at Catholic University of America. It's hosted by CUA and the Napa Institute. And right now we have a special guest joining us from EWTN studio in Orange County, an EWTN favorite, Father Robert Spitzer. Father, welcome to the show.
It's great to be with you.
Well, Father, we are so glad that you were here with us. We recently spoke to Chad Pucknold from Catholic University about the Human Ecology Conference, but we want you to explain why that title, Human Ecology.
Well, as you probably know, human ecology has come into vogue, certainly in the business world, in the last couple of decades, describing the kind of culture, but not just the kind of culture, the kind of ecology, the way business relates to all of the other institutions around it. So it's an inside thing like culture and an outside thing as well in terms of the relationships a business has with the institutions around it, which can include institutions like government or society or the church. And so when you combine the two, that inside and outside influence, probably the best word to use is ecology. And it really kind of describes the whole ambiance in which an organization is kind of set into, and not only set into, but interrelates with, and of course has a huge position in, because businesses not only affect the economy, not only affect goods and services that come onto the market, but business also affects labor conditions. It affects social ambiance. It affects the whole way we do things. And this is something that the church has been very much interested in since the time of Pope Leo XIII and the issuance of the first so-called social encyclical Rerum Novarum. And from that time forward, we can see the church taking this huge leadership step in not only the internal dimensions of business, looking at how human beings are treated, the intrinsic dignity of every human being, but also looking at ways in which business affects the environment around it. And that, by the way, can be the physical environment, the social environment around it, the cultural environment around it. And business has a huge influence, probably more so in many ways than government has. And so it's always been an interest in the church to give guidance in this area, and it has given guidance in this area with the social encyclicals. When Rerum Novarum came out, of course, Pope Leo XIII was much more worried about, it was a world stage in which there were three major players. The church, of course, was a major player in the relationship between labor and industry. But Marxism was another major player, and fascism was another major player. And all of them were vying for controls, inside the labor world, inside the governmental world, inside the social ambiance, and the relationship that business would have with that. And the church literally wrested from that, a middle position in which business could have a great deal of autonomy to try to provide with, the laws of supply and demand, not a complete laissez-faire capitalistic system, but within the scope of the laws of supply and demand, could actually utilize those and do what it does best to control the means of production, but to give guidance on the things that were causing these great labor upheavals and social upheavals at the time, giving rise to Marxism and fascism. And of course, we now know them as the social encyclicals, the intrinsic dignity of every human person, decent working conditions that were defined by the popes, and how that came about, looking at distribution versus production, and what's a proper way of having businesses internally regulate, and if they couldn't do it internally, how governments could externally regulate. And so, of course, this is now a huge point even today. And Pope Francis has been making this a very big part of his agenda, to have really just systems of payment, just working conditions, just conditions for labor. And of course, the church's been reflecting on this for well over 150 years, almost pretty close to 200 years.
Well, Father,
and so
who else?
We can see
it's a 3-day conference, I understand. And who will be some of the speakers, and what will be some of their topics?
We have Cardinal Turkson, who's in charge of the Pontifical Commission for Justice and Peace. He is really Pope Francis's right-hand man in many of the areas of social encyclicals. We also have George Weigel, very well-known speaker, wrote, of course, Pope John Paul's autobiography, and I think 42 other books. Wow. But he will be delivering a talk on the social encyclicals in his historical, cultural context. Tremendous speaker. We also have, of course, Michael Novak, who everybody knows, with respect to the American Enterprise Institute and his contributions to the social ambiance and to the social encyclicals. And then a variety of faculty members from Catholic universities all over the United States, including, of course, Catholic University of America, who's hosting the conference. Father, and yours truly, of course.
Father, where can people go for more information, or if they want to register, where do they go?
To napainstitute.org.
Okay.
napainstitute.org.
napainstitute.org. I also see catholicbusinessconference.com, so I guess either one of those would be fine.
That's right. In fact, that would be the way to actually get the information over there. CatholicBusinessConference.com will get you your tickets and actually get you reservations at the hotel.
Father, we thank you so much for all that you do and for your friendship with EWTN. May this conference see great success. God bless you now.
God bless you too, both of you. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Father.
Well, we're going to take a break at this point, and we'll be back with Dr. Bill Mueller, Vice President of the Catholic Medical Association, bringing together Catholic faith and excellent science and the practice of medicine. We'll be right back. Don't go away. family. You're at home with Jim and Joy and Father John Paul. Joy's with us in spirit. We have Dr. Bill Mueller here with us today, Vice President of the Catholic Medical Association. That's cathmed.org. If you want to share with us, it's 205-271-2980 or 800-221-9460 or Jim and Joy at EWTN.com. We want you to be at home with us. We want to hear from you during the show. Well, Dr. Bill, it is wonderful to be with you.
Thanks. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
And you're not only a doctor, but a colonel.
That's right.
In the Air Force. Mm-hmm. So we thank you and your wife for your service to our nation.
Thank you.
As well as to the family and your family medicine practice and being such a committed Catholic man. But why don't you share with us a little bit about your own life and your family and your career track? I find it so interesting.
Oh, thanks. I'd be happy to. I was born and raised Catholic, actually born in the Chicago area, lived in New York before going to the Air Force Academy for college. And after graduating from the Air Force Academy in 1987, I became an Air Force pilot. And I flew the F-4 Phantom and was an instructor pilot in T-37 training jets. In 1994, I had the opportunity to go to medical school. And I went to medical school through the Air Force at the Uniformed Services University of Health Sciences in Bethesda, Maryland. I was graduated as a medical doctor in 1998 and became an Air Force pilot physician and have been an Air Force pilot physician ever since. But in choosing my medical specialty, I decided to choose family practice because I was so inspired by John Paul II's writings on marriage and family. Right. And so I've been a family medicine physician since 2008. And joined the Catholic Medical Association about that same time, and here I am on the Jim and Joy show. So very happy to be here.
You've gone through your life rather quickly, and I just want to say, I know we both want to say, we honor your life and your service, and want to take some time to dwell upon that before we unpack CathMed, which is such an incredible organization bringing together faith and the practice and science of medicine. But you continue to serve in the Air Force. Mm-hmm. You're a pilot. Mm-hmm. You served as a pilot for many years, and then you decide to become a physician. I mean, that's a big, well, not change totally, because you still do the pilot and Air Force thing, but that's a big decision with many, many years of learning. And what brought you to that point? I mean, you're very successful, you're serving, and then you say, hey, you know, I want to serve as a doctor. You mentioned it just a little bit, but what was the deeper conversion and to the faith and saying, hey, I want to serve in this way as a Catholic?
It's an interesting story. It was really God's divine providence. As I look back, God closed some doors and God opened some doors. And the door that he closed was that the aircraft I was flying was being phased out of the Air Force inventory. And the Air Force was also going through a big reduction in forces in the early 1990s. And because of those circumstances, I was forced to consider other career pathways in the Air Force. And I happened to be at a professional school for Air Force officers. And that 6-week school that I attended was actually where I met my wife, Terry. And I also met an Army physician who had gone through the Uniformed Services University of Health Sciences to become an Army physician. And so it really made sense to me that if I couldn't continue my career as an Air Force pilot, it really would be appealing to be an Air Force physician. I really enjoyed science, I enjoyed being around people, and I thought this would be a great way to bring those two areas of interest together. And so I started doing the work that was necessary to make myself qualified to apply to medical school, and I think my background in the Air Force and as an undergraduate in engineering, actually, Father, helped me be a good candidate for medical school.
Great. And within the military, who are you serving in particular in terms of your field of medicine?
Sure. I actually serve as a family physician, but as a flight surgeon, I specifically focus on aviators and their families and trying to take care of them, trying to make sure that aviators are taken care of in a way that doesn't interfere with their ability to do their job, and also taking care of their families, because if we don't take care of their families, then they're not as mission ready as we'd like them to be.
What was it about St. John Paul II, or about his writings, or anything in particular that started to deepen this conversion within you regarding the greatness, the sanctity of the human person, and wanting to serve them medically and holistically?
Well, it was another one of those divine providence stories. I was deployed for Operation Enduring Freedom as a B-1 pilot, and a good friend of mine recommended that I read John Paul II's biography written by George Weigel called Witness to Hope.
Sure.
And I was just so impressed by how smart John Paul II was. I was born and raised Catholic, so I knew who he was, and I knew he was our Pope, but I really didn't know much more about his life. And as I read his story, I was convicted that this was not just a man of God, but a man of science, a philosopher, a poet, somebody who really, really was the smartest person I had ever encountered in a book or in history. And so I thought, as I explored his writings about marriage and family, I knew this just wasn't a religious person talking about marriage and family. This was somebody who really knew his stuff. And as a Catholic physician, I had to really come to grips with what that meant for me as not just a physician, but as a father setting an example for my two sons, and as a husband in my duties as a responsible, godly man.
Is there anything specifically in his writings, not we talked about George Weigel, but anything specifically by St. John Paul II that he wrote that would really kind of...
Well, the quote that I often go back to is when John Paul II wrote that as the family goes, so goes the nation, and so goes the world in which we live.
For sure.
And that quote, I think, was from his writings, Familiaris Consortio, and that document talks all about how marriage and family fit into society, and that you need a healthy family life and healthy families in society in order for society to work. And that really was what called me into the field of family medicine and really galvanized my interest in John Paul II and in marriage and in family.
Okay.
The CMA and you yourself speak about this upholding the Catholic faith, teaching, and good science and practice of medicine. What does that mean? What does that look like? When you say upholding the Catholic faith, then do you go to your patients and talk to them about the Trinity? I mean, what does it mean, upholding the faith in the midst of your practice, doing ethical medicine?
Sure.
What does that look like? What does that mean?
Well, that's a great question, because it really gets to the core of what it means to be a Catholic physician, I think, and why we have the Catholic Medical Association. And I was talking to a father about his trip to Rome right before the show started, about being commissioned as a priest of mercy. Did I get that right?
Missionary of mercy.
Missionary of
okay.
mercy. And the idea of mercy that Pope Francis has helped us focus on this year really helps clarify what Catholic medicine looks like in reality. And I like to say that Catholic medicine is the face of mercy in action.
Say that again.
Sure, that Catholic medicine is the face of mercy in action. And the reason I put it that way is because mercy is what love looks like when it encounters pain and suffering. And if you think about it, that's what physicians are called to do, is to encounter people in their pain and in their suffering.
For sure.
So when you bring an element of love to it and a true understanding of the human person as an embodied soul, then I think you really start getting to the heart of what it means to deal with a patient not just as a sick body, but as somebody who is suffering, a soul that's suffering inside that body. And so Catholic medicine, in my view, is bringing excellence in your understanding of the science of medicine, along with the attitude of love and healing to the soul of that person who is suffering because of his or her illness or injury. And so really, I think what defines Catholic medicine is our ability to bring love to the equation, but to do so with the ability to understand the science that goes behind taking care of people.
I think we can take that definition and really apply it to all the corporal and spiritual works of mercy. You know, mercy is love in action, really.
I agree.
Is what it looks like in all the corporal and spiritual works of mercy. That's a great definition.
So there's good ethics and bad ethics. And are you saying that there's also good medicine and bad medicine?
I am, actually.
Okay.
And it's God gives us so many gifts, and our freedom to use those gifts either in accordance with the way they were meant to be used or against His will kind of it starts getting into the understanding of what makes certain actions moral and what makes certain actions immoral. And the Catholic Medical Association has really helped me understand that there's a symmetry between practicing good medicine on a scientific level and practicing moral medicine on an ethical level. And because God made it, and because we're so blessed to have this symmetry between faith and reason, often by doing medicine in an ethical manner, we're actually increasing our ability to practice the science of medicine better.
Can you give us some concrete examples of how you might be asked to practice medicine that you consider, or that factually is not good medicine? It's not ethical, or it's just bad scientifically.
Sure.
And yet the medical community seems to be embracing it, whatever it is. How does this work its way out practically?
Sure. I think the best way for me to answer that question is with my own encounter with medicine as it was being practiced in the secular world versus what I was learning about from John Paul II. And that really had to do with the issue of contraception. John Paul actually wrote about contraception in several of his documents, and George Weigel wrote about John Paul's writings in the biography. And as I was really trying to come to grips with this perspective on why contraception was more than just a moral issue, I learned a lot about what contraception actually does to affect a woman's physiology and how it affects the potential implantation of a human embryo before we can even know that a woman is pregnant.
Let's just hold it right there
Sure.
for now. We're going to take a break at this point. We want to hear from you. We're speaking about the Catholic Medical Association, bringing together good solid ethics, the Catholic faith, and good science and medicine. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back. We're speaking with Dr. Bill Mueller with the Catholic Medical Association. That's cathmed.org. And Doctor, you were sharing about a practical application of good medicine, excellent medicine, versus medicine that might be harmful, and the ethics of medicine. Just summarize the story you were sharing and bring it to its conclusion. It had to do with birth control.
Sure. Bishop Robert Vasa was actually our Episcopal advisor for the Catholic Medical Association, and he had a saying that good medicine was moral medicine. And I didn't really appreciate that until I really started delving into this issue of contraception. I learned about some of the harms of contraception through a cassette tape that I think a lot of people have probably heard of, Janet Smith's tape called Contraception, Why Not? And she did a wonderful job really opening my eyes as a physician to understanding some of the real harms of contraceptive pills. And she also brought into play the dynamic that people's attitude towards the marital embrace changes when they know that it's been purposefully sterilized. And that initial encounter with her talk on contraception really changed my practice of medicine, so that I stopped prescribing contraceptives, but I still needed to go deeper. I still needed to understand what I could provide for my patients in that area. And so I went to the Pope Paul VI Institute of Human Reproduction and learned about the Creighton model system of fertility care, and actually became a medical consultant for natural procreative technology, where you learn to use the Creighton model system to understand a woman's reproductive cycle and to treat many of the pathologies that we see in medicine but don't really have an understanding of, because we're not really looking closely at the woman's cycle to understand what's going wrong. So I explain all of that to help people understand that in really coming to grips with what contraceptive pills do to a woman, and trying to really do what medicine calls us to do, which is to identify the root cause of an illness and fix it, I realized that contraceptive pills did none of that good stuff. And this NAPRO approach, which is really based on solid principles of Catholic medicine, does exactly that, which is to heal the underlying pathology that's causing the problem.
And people can learn more about that through learning about the Paul VI Center or the NAPRO, they can contact, what is it, a Creighton University? Is that where is it out
Creighton
of?
Model System is the name of the system that's used, but the Pope Paul VI Institute is popepaulvi.com.
Okay.
And they're a great organization, and you can find more information about that program there.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And you really don't need to be a Catholic or religious to understand that these chemicals are harmful.
You're right.
I mean,
You're
so
right.
that's just bad science and medicine that we don't need to be practicing. Father, you want to read an email?
Sure, I can read an email. First email, if medicine is supposed to treat or heal people, then why would it not be reasonable to say that once a person is beyond the point where they could be treated or healed, medicine could be used to end their life or to take away their pain? This is from Martin from Ontario.
Okay. Well, thanks for the question, Martin. I would say that to answer that question well requires an authentic understanding of what it means to be a human person. And I think that's, again, what Catholic medicine brings to the equation, is an authentic understanding of the human person as an embodied soul. Sure. And that might sound a little bit philosophical, but it really gets to the essence of why human beings have intrinsic worth. And so the way I would answer that question is that while we are still alive, we still have this soul that God has created that animates our body. And if we were to do something that would terminate the body's ability to survive, we're essentially killing the person while there's still life within them. And so certainly medicine, one of the goals of medicine is to reduce pain and suffering, but the goal of medicine should never be to do that at the expense of somebody's life.
Sure.
I'm thinking of living the gospel of life, which was the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops' response to the gospel of life. I may not have the quote exactly, but they said the beginning premise here for us as human beings and as Catholic people is that we should never kill innocent human beings, and neither should we be an accessory or an accomplice to that. That's ground zero. And we need to know that as Catholics, because a lot of us have been duped by thinking this is something, merciful to do to people. But we have to start with that premise, which is a natural law premise and a divine premise. We don't kill, neither are we an accomplice to anyone's killing through our silence or actions. And that's what I hear you say.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I think we have another email that's come in, Father.
Sure. My mother is 87 years old and lives in a nursing home. To make a long story short, my brother is the one who makes her healthcare decisions. He is her healthcare proxy. I am worried that he may make medical decisions that could speed up her death. Right now, her health is fine, but if things start to go downhill, I fear for her well-being. Is there anything I could do? This is from Rita.
Well, Rita, thanks. That's an important question, and it really is an important question for people to ask themselves and their potential healthcare proxies while there's still opportunities to discuss these issues.
Sure.
I think it's difficult to answer without knowing more of the details of the circumstances, but I think that I would recommend that you have a talk with your brother and the mother. Was that the person who is ill?
Yes.
So really to make sure that they have a clear understanding of what the mother's intentions are, and also a good discussion perhaps with a priest or with a doctor who really understands some of these end-of-life issues and can speak to them in an appropriate way.
Yeah. And I would recommend the National Right to Life has good information on this. They have what's called the Will to Live. Your own organization, CathMed, has some good information on this about healthcare proxies. EWTN.com has also spoken to this. So I think we need to educate ourselves even before we speak to others about, what does the Catholic Church teach basically about healthcare, what we need when we need it, the different stages of life. What is the church teaching on what's ordinary care or extraordinary care? Some of these terms that might seem a little confusing, but they can be clarified. So we need to educate ourselves. So if we're speaking to others that might have the healthcare proxy for our loved ones, just have a conversation. Say, hey, here's what, not just what I believe, but what the church teaches, and is this where we are with Mom? Well, Well, unpack for us more fully the Catholic Medical Association, why there is a need for this, what the vision of it is, why should people be involved with it, and so on.
Well, the Catholic Medical Association is a physician-led organization of medical professionals, and our goal is to inform, organize, and inspire our members to carry out the principles of the Catholic Church in the science and practice of medicine. And that's our mission statement, and it really gets to the core of why it's important to have a Catholic Medical Association, because the Catholic Church has such a deep and rich tradition understanding the human person and really answering practical questions about how best to care for the human person. And so the Catholic Medical Association takes those teachings and applies them specifically to the field of medicine. So I think it's a very important organization in terms of Catholics who are in healthcare to understand what that means to bring a Catholic perspective to their vocation of medicine.
Sure. Absolutely critical.
Who can be involved? Just doctors, nurses, ordinary people in the pews. Who can be involved in this?
Well, anybody can join the Catholic Medical Association. Yeah. We are an organization of 2,100 members, and we're on a growth trajectory, and we welcome as many people who have an interest in the ethical practice of medicine to join us. What we do, we have different categories of membership, and because it's a physician-led organization, to be a full member requires holding an MD or a DO degree. But the only thing that kind of separates that full membership from associate membership is the leadership opportunities on the board as an officer. We have many, many different ways for non-physicians or physician assistants or nurses or healthcare administrators or even priests and different religious to contribute to some of the areas that really help us all get a better understanding of how we can apply the principles of the Catholic faith in the science and practice of medicine.
I love what you said about the Catholic Medical Association informing, I think you said organizing, informing, organizing, and inspiring.
Inspiring.
Because this is such a time. There is such confusion in so many areas within our country and within this world, whether it's religion or medicine or law, a rewriting of the basic standards so that which some would call medical care is really not good care at all, like you said. Overdosing people with contraceptive, chemicals, thinking that pregnancy is now some kind of disease from the HHS mandate, Health and Human Services mandating contraceptives have to be accepted by companies that are going to insure people, abortifacient, chemicals that can lead to abortion, assisted suicide, euthanasia. This is bad news. And good is being called evil, and evil is being called good. And somebody does need to inform the medical community and organize the medical community and inspire the medical community. Especially, we were sharing before, I see so many doctors that are leaving the profession at this point. You got hopefully people are coming in, but their consciences need to be formed, and I see that's a part of the work that you're doing. Father, did you want to say something? Is that how about these young men and women coming in? What are you doing for them that are considering going into the field of medicine?
Well, the Catholic Medical Association has programs that really target medical students and residents to help them develop in their faith and really understand how the principles of the Catholic faith can help them become better physicians. We have a medical student boot camp that's held every June that helps identify Catholic medical students and exposes them to great talks and camaraderie. Basically does what our mission statement says, informs, organizes, and inspires them to really embrace their Catholic faith as they become physicians.
I think a lot of it is just making connections.
Right.
If one person knows another and then you know another, you can just, one person knows a specific field in medicine. It's just, you need to make connections.
Right.
It's like that in the priesthood, too.
Exactly. That's so true. I think that Jim was kind of getting to that when we were talking about the mission statement and inspiring people to really embrace medicine again, because so many people are leaving the vocation. And I think it's because they're not inspired, they're not passionate about medicine like they were when they first started. And I think that for Catholic medical professionals who are struggling with this, the Catholic Medical Association will do exactly that. Every one of us is so busy, and there's so many things that require our time. But by joining the CMA, I know that I formed some relationships with other medical professionals, and those people have become some of my best friends. It's really made me excited and passionate about my vocation to medicine, because it's really invigorated my understanding of the human person. And I think that because I understand the philosophy and the theology behind what the intrinsic value of the human person means, it's made me a better physician.
Thank you.
Sure.
We're going to take a break at this point. We're going to hear more about the Catholic Medical Association, this bringing together of the Catholic faith and the good practice and science of medicine. Don't go away. We'll be right back. We want to hear from you.
Welcome back. You're an important part of the family here at Jim and Joy and Father John Paul.
JJJ.
Join us live here at home. Contact the EWTN Pilgrimage Department by emailing pilgrimages@ewtn.com. That's pilgrimages@ewtn.com, or you can call 205-271-2966. And we have a lovely audience here today. Some of our producers'
Family.
in-laws, so they're here, and we're excited to have them. So please come down and join our audience.
And I think we're about ready to go to Joan. Is that right? And so Joan is with us from Rome, always with a good report. To you, Joan.
Well, buongiorno from Rome to all of you at home. And this week I have some very important words on the family, on marriage, and on the sacredness of life. But you know what? Not from Rome, but from Cuba. And I'm talking about words pronounced by Pope Francis and Orthodox Patriarch Kirill in their hugely historic meeting in Cuba last Friday. The first time in 1,000 years since the rupture in 1054 between Eastern and Western Christianity, the first time leaders of those churches meet. Now, they did issue a joint declaration, a communique, and among other things talked a great deal about the family. And here's what we read about the similarities, they say. They share the same conception of the family. The family, says the Declaration, is based on marriage, an act of freely given and faithful love between a man and a woman. It's a love that seals their union and teaches them to accept one another as a gift. Marriage is a school of love and fidelity. We regret, say the two, that other forms of cohabitation have been placed on the same level as this union. While the concept consecrated in the Bible of paternity and maternity as the distinct vocation of a man and a woman, these are being banished from public life today. And further on, they say in the Declaration, they issue a call to respect the inalienable right to life, noting that millions are denied this very right of being born. They highlight the emergence of euthanasia, saying that unfortunately there are so many of the elderly and the disabled who feel they're a burden on society and on families. And they also voiced concern over developments in biomedics, the reproductive technologies, saying that these represent an attack. The manipulation of life represents an attack on life. And they end by saying, we believe it is our duty to recall the immutability of Christian moral principles based on respect and the dignity of the individual called into being according to the Creator's plan. Immensely important words from Cuba, Pope Francis, Patriarch Kirill. But on that note, back to you at home.
Thank you, Joan. Another incredible report. Amazing things taking place there between the Russian Orthodox Church and our Pope, our Holy Father. And boy, they were really discussing some of the things that we're sharing here today. After 1,000 years, the church becoming more and more unified around the basic truths of marriage and the family and the sanctity of human life. Your thoughts?
Well, I was just with Joan in Rome last week.
We saw you.
So it was neat seeing her. She has so much to add. And really, I'd just simply like to say that everything that Joan said was kind of at the Catholic Medical Association's kind
Sounds
of
like they're stealing from Rome or something.
I mean, you're aimed at restoring life and restoring the dignity of the family.
Well, it's even more inspiring. I'm going to be the chairperson for the 2017 Catholic Medical Association Education Conference, which is scheduled to take place in Denver from the 7th through the 10th of September in 2017. And the theme for that particular conference is Medicine at the Service of Marriage and Family, Transforming the Culture with Love and Truth. Wow. And we are so excited to put on this conference. The annual education conference is one of the really important and probably our pinnacle achievement as a national organization. This year, we're having a Catholic Medical Association conference in Washington, D.C. called Virtuous Medicine, The Joy and Privilege of the Catholic Physician. And that's scheduled to take place from the 13th through the 16th of October, 2016.
Wonderful.
So Joan's report really brings to light how Catholics in general and Catholic physicians in particular can answer these important questions that are being brought to us by our Holy Father.
Yeah. And it's amazing when you said medicine at the service of marriage and family. I mean, many people would say, what does medicine have to do with serving marriage and the family? I mean, marriage and family is just however you define it and what it is, but what does medicine have to do with that? How do you integrate those two? Medicine, is it interpersonal relationships as well as good medicine? How does it impact the family, good holistic medicine?
Sure. Well, I would kind of go back to how we first started answering the question of what does Catholic medicine look like, and the idea of bringing love to the equation of caring for the sick. That, to me, embodies the difference between Catholic medicine and secular medicine, that we bring this spiritual dimension and perspective to the patient-physician encounter. But when I talk about how medicine can serve marriage and family, we kind of add to that, and we look at our patients not just as individuals, but as in relationship with their husband, with their wife, with their children, with their parents, with their friends. And so this idea of solidarity, that we're all part of family, really has to shape our ability to provide healing and provide love and provide curative relationship, taking into account some of the different dynamics that are at play as a result of that relationship.
So you're holding or hosting overarching conferences that people could come to from all over the country, different parts of the world. What's happening on the local level or for individuals? How is CMA organized? What's available if people want to get involved?
I'm glad you asked, because it's a really neat dimension of the CMA. We follow the Catholic principles of subsidiarity, actually, in terms of organizing at two different levels, the local level and the national level. The local level is formed around things called guilds, and guilds are organizations of groups of people generally formed at the diocesan level that brings Catholic medical professionals together to address the needs of the local community and to build relationships with the local bishop and the priests and religious in that diocese. And we have over 100 guilds in the Catholic Medical Association spread across the country. And the CathMed website, cathmed.org, is a good place to find a guild that is near you. And if there happens not to be a guild near you, that same website is a good place to go to figure out how to start a guild in your local community. Of course, we're also an organization at the national level, and I always encourage people to join both their local guild and the national organization. The national organization really gives a voice to Catholic medicine in the field of medicine here in the United States. And so our national membership enables us to do things like these annual conferences, like this medical student boot camp, other areas that we can really reach out into the secular culture and help them understand what God really meant when he created this wonderful vocation of medicine.
Beautiful.
Can people search for a directory to find a doctor in their area, a Catholic doctor, that applies to the Catholic Medical Association?
Yes, we have a ability on our website for people to search for a Catholic physician, and that database is under development constantly. We are always adding to it, and we're refining it to make it easier for people to get in touch with those who are interested in being listed on this list.
That's great.
Want to take an email, Father?
Sure, the email. Do some doctors look down on abortionists? How about doctors who work part-time as abortionists? How can someone claim to be a doctor but then accept payment for terminating life? Pat. It's from Pat.
Well, that's I think that's a really good question. I think it's an important thing for people who are in the field of medicine to understand that when we take the oath of Hippocrates, the Hippocratic Oath, part of that oath is to not terminate life. Right. And so somebody who makes the conscious decision to terminate a life, either through abortion or through euthanasia, is really violating that Hippocratic Oath. And so I would say that, again, with this idea of mercy in mind this year, that one of the things that we can do as Catholic physicians is encounter those that may not have that understanding of what they're doing, and to do so with love, but to do so with the truth. Sure. Kind of getting back to our conference theme, transforming the culture through love and truth, and to help them understand that they're really not being true to their calling as a physician if they're
Sure.
doing those types of things.
And that might be, under the spiritual works of mercy, admonishing the sinner, first of all, not with a heavy gavel,
right?
Not with a heavy hand, but with love, with mercy, with truth, and also instructing the ignorant, because so many people, I think, are ignorant, and not, I don't want to say ignorant in a bad way, but just they just don't know the truth. That's the basic definition of ignorance. Not knowing the truth, not knowing the truth about who we are, not knowing the truth about how God looks at us as a human person, how God has become one of us in Jesus Christ.
And knowing the truth is exhilarating. And I think that that is what has made being a member of the Catholic Medical Association so enjoyable and so invigorating for me, is I have really come to know the truth of the human person and the truth of how medicine can serve the human person. And that has reinvigorated my passion for medicine, has reinvigorated my desire to apply those principles in my life as a family physician, in my life as an Air Force officer, and in my life as a husband and father.
Sure.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking of a quote. I probably won't be able to quote it exactly, but in my readings this week, and it was a recalling of Mother Teresa, I guess working with some new women that wanted to come into the order. And so they were going to go out into the field and, find the poorest of the poor. And I think Mother Teresa said to them, because they had been at Mass, did you see how the priest took the host, the true presence of Jesus? Do you see how he handled the host during the Mass today? Now, as you go out into the streets and you find people, touch their bodies like that, hold them like that. And she makes that correlation between the host, the presence of Jesus, and somehow mysteriously, in distressing disguise, are these other people. And I think that's a lot of what I hear you saying. And once you grasp that as a physician or any aspect of healthcare, when you get that key and unlock it and say somehow Christ is mysteriously here in this person, and I'm touching him. I've touched him for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 3 hours. I've touched this person, and in so doing, I've touched Christ. Well, that makes all the difference in life, doesn't it? Yeah,
it really does.
Yeah, it brings you happiness and brings you joy. How many people do you have involved with the association? Is it growing? Are you finding more people being attracted to it? What's been the history?
Well, as I said, we have over 100 guilds across the country, and the guilds range in size as small as 6 to as large as almost 100. But nationally, we have about 2,100 members. We're on a growth curve, as I like to say. Over the last 15 years, we've increased our membership significantly. We actually went through an interesting period in our history as an organization after Humanae Vitae, where the organization really lost a lot of membership. And since about the year 2000, when the Catholic Medical Association dedicated itself to the Sacred Heart of Jesus, we've been growing and expanding our ability to reach the culture, and so we are really excited about what the future holds. Our president, Dr. Les Ruppersberger, has made 5,000 members for the Catholic Medical Association his goal for 2020, and I think we could get there. It's going to require people to get the word out and to inspire others to look into the Catholic Medical Association and encourage them to join.
They're going to do it. Dr. Bill, thank you so much for being with us. Hold to that vision, bring it forth. People really need your great work. Father, would you give us a closing blessing?
Sure. Family, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and may he turn his face to you and be merciful to you. May he show you his kindness and give you his peace. And may the blessing of Almighty God, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit descend upon you and remain with you forever. Amen.
Well, God bless you. God bless all of your loved ones, generation to generation. God has a great plan for you and your loved ones. Keep it on EWTN. Bye now.